Welcome to Change It Up Radio, here with me, your host, Paula Shaw. Once again, I'm delighted to have you here with me. I have a very interesting gentleman to introduce to you on this show today, but we will get to that in just a moment. First, I want to remind everybody that I am an author. I am the author of 3 books. Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, which is kind of a great little primer on what to say and what not to say to people who are in emotional pain. I've also written Chakras, the Magnificent 7, which is also a kind of a primer on how to work with and balance your chakras so that body, mind, and spirit are working optimally. And I also wrote Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And that is a book for grieving people. It's not a book you have to read from cover to cover. It's a book with short chapters, lots of tools and processes that you can use to help you move through your grief and not get stuck in it. I am also a life transition coach. I work with people who are dealing with the upheaval of change. Change, even if it's change we've chosen, like a marriage or a new job or moving, we humans still don't deal well with the discomfort of the unfamiliar. And sometimes we need help in getting through that. And that's the work I do in my private practice. And I'm a speaker. And of course, I speak on these topics of change and saying the right thing and how to move through your grief and not get stuck in your grief and get stuck becoming your grief. If you want more information about my work, you can get that information at paulashaw.com. And by the way, while you're there, be sure you grab a copy of my free gift, which is a kind of cheat sheet taken from that first book, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. It actually gives you a list of sentences of things that are helpful to say and sentences that you absolutely want to steer clear of because they are not helpful. And we also give some statements to the grieving person who sometimes gets a lot of really unhelpful things are said to that grieving person because everyone wants to help and everyone thinks they know something to say to help, like you got to just keep going. You got to go forward. Sometimes life knocks you down, but you got to get back up. These kinds of things are not real helpful to say to someone who is in emotional pain, who's just suffered a huge loss. So while you're at my website, paulashaw.com, grab a copy of that free gift and keep it in your glove box or your purse or wherever it's handy, and life brings into your experience one of those moments when you have to talk to someone in emotional pain. The other place that I would also send you is changeitupradio.com. That's the website for this show. All the shows are archived there. But you can also hear them on any podcast platform because we're on all the major podcast platforms. But you can also get information there about being a guest or a sponsor of this show. And we would love to have you be both. So changeitupradio.com is where you can get all of that information. All right. Now, let's talk about this person that I get to introduce you to today, Don Myers. Don is a master artist. His art form is stained glass, and he's created some major pieces. He's been commissioned by city and county agencies to create pieces, and some of his most beautiful pieces are in the city of Oceanside, in restaurants, in commercial businesses. There's even a huge one that the city commissioned. He has a stained glass studio there where he does his work. And but I think the most exciting thing about Don, and don't get me wrong, his art is beautiful, truly beautiful, and you can see examples of it in our show notes. But Don has this kind of cowboy energy, he just walks his talk. He is a man of his word, and he believes that radical honesty, if we all practiced it, would change the world. That if we were all just telling the truth, we could save a lot of time. And he gives us some very fun examples of how we might handle that radical honesty. My favorite is the bar example between a man and a woman. So you'll have to tune in and listen for that one. But this is a man of wisdom, a man with a really beautiful soul who did not have an easy childhood, but who, rather than becoming a victim, chose to become really a kind of a hero, someone who is not afraid to be who he truly is, to express himself as who he truly is, and to be a man of integrity and honor in the world. So hang on, everybody. Hang on to your seats because you're about to meet Don Myers. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you with me today because I have a very interesting man to introduce you to today. His name is Don Myers, and we are about to talk about many things because he is a master artist. He is a teacher. He's a musician and a singer. There's sort of like no creative thing this man doesn't do. Though I don't know if he's a writer. I'll have to ask him about that. So, Don.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning and welcome. I'm so delighted to have you here on Change It Up Radio today. I always like to ask my guests, kind of like, remember that old Mary Martin song? Let's start at the very beginning. So, Don.
All right. You want to begin my story?
How did it all begin? Yeah,
I ran away from my real
first of
family
all,
at the age of 3.
what was that?
I ran away from my real family at the age of 3. Never looked back.
You got to be kidding.
No.
You're serious?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Fortunate enough
let's
to be
hear
adopted
about
with another
how do you
family, and then I was never looked back.
how do you run away at 3?
Knowing where the front door is and knowing how much food you need to take to survive.
No kidding.
Yes.
So why did you want to run away? Was your home
My parents argued a lot.
And you
You
didn't
know,
like
and
that?
as when I was returning, the older I got, it just wasn't a good environment.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So where do you think your love of art was born? Because you are a master stained glass artist and you also teach
That's correct.
stained glass art on many levels. You've taught elementary school, you teach on the college level now, you also teach the general public. So obviously, something in you not only loves creating the art, but loves teaching other people how to create it.
It goes from a promise I made to my brother that actually spent time and taught me how to really do some of this.
Ah,
My brother Randy, he took some time out at probably when I was 13 and actually showed me and taught me really a different way of life. And ever since then, I've never looked back. And I made a promise to him that I would teach as many people as I could. I told him I'd stay true to the form.
I
Of art.
see. And so, one of the things I love about doing this podcast is it allows me to connect with people I might never get to meet and ask those questions I've always wanted to ask. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions that may sound very silly to you, but
Nope,
I don't think the general public necessarily knows all these answers, Don. So
it's true.
I'm a fan of stained glass, always have been. You will see stained glass in my home, and I love to see it out in the world. In fact, I've seen some of your pieces. I didn't even know they were yours, but I live in Oceanside, as you do, and I have seen them at several places. Now, I want to know, isn't all glass clear when it's first created? And how does glass become different colors?
It's probably just how it got its name originally. probably from like the turn of the centuries when we able to make glass. It was just clear window pane.
Mm-hmm.
And someone decided to make stained glass by putting paint to it. And
So it's
once
actually paint on the glass.
that's
It's
how
not
it
the
all was
glass.
created originally. It was all created with a window pane, with it being etched in with probably paint or some type whatever paint was available back then in the 11th century, whenever it was.
Wow.
But it turned into probably what was the beginning of the 19th century, and we were able to actually start kilning the glass and creating the colors and keeping the colors by mixing, for example, gold to keep red. If
Mm-hmm.
there was real gold in there, it would just turn brown as it heated
Oh
and
my gosh.
cooled. So a lot of trial and error through this whole industry.
One of the things that blew me away all of the times actually I've been in Europe, because I always seem to find some cathedral to go to, um, the stained glass work that was done then. And that was so long ago, hundreds of years ago, and it still looks so solid.
That's correct. It has a shelf life, but probably indefinitely if it's maintained.
Really?
The lead itself might be having like a shelf life of 90 years or better, but then that could be restored uh, and basically put right back to original condition again.
My goodness. So stained glass today, when you create a piece, are you gluing the glass onto some kind of a backing?
That's what we're doing. If you look at an example behind me with the window behind me here with the
Hmm.
palm tree and everything, that's individual pieces of glass cut with the red and the green and the blue, and then actually it would be wrapped in a copper foil, which is a Tiffany type of a method, which instead of leading, it's wrapped with copper foil and then soldered together individual lines. Very time consuming to create something like that.
So you're soldering the glass together.
That's correct, with the glass wrapped in copper foil.
I see. And is this the same method that you teach students at the colleges?
It is. It is. Basically, I try to get away from using lead. Lead is basically almost just too much, too heavy, too poisonous,
Uh-huh.
toxin.
Hmm.
So with the copper foil, it's less of everything and it's actually lighter of a process.
I see. Very interesting. And you can make, but okay, now, so you get it all together, but does the framing actually hold the glass in place, kind of like if it were a
That's true. That's with the edging work or the framework that would have the glass stop from separating itself from itself, yes.
I see.
But then it
Okay.
actually is strong enough to hold itself together. I have a lot of my windows that are still alive today and kicking.
Yeah, that's what's so amazing. I mean, especially I remember when I was in Notre Dame, then that cathedral, and several Montmartre, the glass work is mind-boggling, and
Thousands of
it's
years old.
way up high too. I mean, people were very industrious back in the day because they worked hard to create the art pieces that we go now and marvel over when we're visiting Europe. So it if someone listening to this show said, God, I've always wanted to do stained glass, that's the form of art I'm really interested in. What do you recommend as far as training?
Well, a lot of people these days like to do the self-taught, which is the YouTube videos, which
Uh-huh.
I get a lot of my students from.
Oh,
You get a lot of people that fumble through the YouTube video, and then some of them actually will catch on and just fly right away because those are the ones that are probably trained their brains to teach that way. But
mm-hmm.
everyone has a different way of picking something up and remembering it. They like to watch it, they like to see it, or they like the hands-on experience. I prefer the hands-on experience. Really, it's just helps learn it quicker. You know exactly how to make a mistake real soon, and it prevents you picking up bad habits, in my opinion. If you're going to be doing it by yourself on a video,
Mm-hmm.
you can pick up a lot of bad habits and continue and struggle. You're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have someone to critique your work along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to probably progress as fast as you really want to as an artist.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And speaking of being a teacher and critiquing people's work,
Mhm.
my friend Ellen tells me that one of the most fascinating things about you is that you practice something called radical honesty.
Yes, I try to apply that to my life. Yes.
And is that what you referred to when you were talking about the promise you made to your brother
That's
initially?
correct. Yes, you have to live your life the way you really tell the world you're going to live it.
Mm,
That's the only thing you really have as a man is basically your word.
yes,
You can't really have that. You're not going to have too much honor behind that either.
that's really true. Really
So
true.
you really want to kind of live up to your word, and that's kind of what I made a promise to him, and I'm still living that promise today.
And so I totally get living up to your word, but I'm not sure I really understand the principles, if there are such, of radical honesty.
It doesn't exist in this world. That's why I like it. There's no one that's really telling the truth anywhere.
Oh, so true. So true.
It's this world's filled with, excuse my French, but king bullshitters.
Hmm.
To
Why
the
do you think
to the
that
best,
is?
the highest level and to the lowest level.
Hmm. Why do you think that is, Don?
It's easier to lie than tell the truth, so you don't really hurt anybody's feelings up front, and it makes you feel a little better just because you haven't hurt anybody. I can go through the day not knowing that I hurt anyone's feelings. That's why it might be easier, and you get to walk away from a lie. But then what they do is they start stacking up,
Hmm.
and then you have to live your life a lie.
Mm. And remember the
That-
lies you told, right?
yes,
Hmm.
I mean everyone says they don't lie, but in my opinion, everyone lies every day.
Wow. That's a pretty big statement. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to it.
It's going to piss a few people off, but those are the ones that are lying.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think you hit on a really important point. I think maybe people value that not hurting somebody's feelings more than they value the truth.
It's true because it's when you hurt someone's feelings, you probably have feelings for that person already.
Hmm.
And you just really don't want that person to think anything less of you or anything more of you.
Right, right. You know, the other piece that occurs to me is I think one of the reasons more people aren't more honest is because they're afraid of what other people are going to think of them. You know, we're all sort of terrified of judgment, somebody else's judgment or opinion of us not being sterling. And so easier, as you put it, to tell a lie than it is to risk somebody telling you a painful truth about yourself.
Even if you go to a restaurant and you have your friend cooking the food and you want to just tell them, this tastes like shit. And you have to tell them, oh, this tastes great. And
Uh-huh.
it's your friend cooking it. You know, you don't want to hurt that guy's feelings or his
No,
business.
that's it. And so you know what, Don, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about how do you discriminate between telling the truth and being cruel?
All right.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio. I am your host, Paula Shaw, and today I'm talking to a fascinating man. He is a master artist, he is a teacher, he's also a musician and a singer, and his name is Don Myers. We were just talking about the idea of radical honesty and how so many people are not honest. They would rather tell a little lie than hurt somebody's feelings or say something someone might judge them for. And so I'm about to ask Don, in a moment when there's a choice between radical honesty, telling that truth, or maybe the truth, though, if you tell it, is kind of cruel or will upset somebody or hurt them or make them feel less than. How do you make a choice then, Don?
For me, it's really timing. And behind that is how the person affects my life if I'm going to reveal the truth to them. I might have to keep the truth hidden a little longer, making sure it's all timing to be revealed.
Ah,
What you're saying, truth can destroy, truth can upset.
mm-hmm.
If I care for the person deeply, I'd probably wait for the perfect time so you're not showing embarrassment or putting the person down. You throw someone in a corner, they're going to want to fight.
Yeah.
If you want the truth, you might as well have a conversation. If
Mm-hmm.
you have a conversation, you got to have some honesty with it. You got to have some enough integrity to back everything you're saying.
Absolutely. You
So
know, I love the idea of authenticity. But I think at we have to temper that with that heart as well, right? Like what I hear you saying is you are looking at the person. You're coming more from a perspective of caring than you are I'm going to tell you what I think no matter what.
That's true because we're here to serve each other. We're not here to put each other down.
That's
And I think
right.
we all forget that. I
Mm,
really think we all forget why we're really here. I
mm,
think we're all trying to grab the almighty buck so we can be better than the next person or have more than the next person.
yeah.
We really forget about possibly our neighbor or the friend, person walked by in the front yard, or even the homeless people. We forget about everything.
Hmm.
We're blind to everyone else's pain. And if we're here to serve each other, then we're actually lying to each other every day, every time the world suffers.
Mm,
We have enough resources in this world to make sure no one does suffer, but yet we have either a government, an establishment, or organization to make sure there's always just enough.
yes.
There's never a cure, there's never a fix.
Hmm.
They want it to be this way.
For what purpose,
You
Don?
need someone that's going to either, you can't fix everything because it's, for God's sakes, we're going to say it takes money.
Hmm.
They're going to back away from anything that's going to cost a lot of money. So they're going to lie about even fixing it. So there's
Mm,
no fix for anything. If they're going to stand there and not tell the truth about trying to fix something, they're going to lie about the fix. It'll never get fixed.
true, true. But it seems to me, from the way you live your life, you're trying to make inroads wherever you can.
Everywhere. Even with adult handicapped people. I let them see what the world's made of. I let them see that how many people out there will take advantage of them if they are left alone in the world
Hmm.
and how they have to protect themselves.
Now, is that part of what you do with through your
Yes,
what
yes.
do you
Every
call
week
it?
I work with
Adventure
adult handicapped
pioneer,
people. Yes, as much we call ourselves the adventure pioneers.
adventure pioneers. So, tell us a little bit more about this group. What kind of activities do you do with them?
We refer to ourselves as adventures pioneers because every week's a different adventure. From actually playing softball to taking them to casinos to anything that adult needs to learn that there's something available to them. Even if it's indoor skydiving, playing pool, going golfing, going bowling. These are activities that these people really don't get to experience sometimes in life. Parents are usually working to support that child's life and they don't have the opportunity to go out and really let them live a life. If not, they're living it on a couch, eating microwave food for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And these are people who are challenged mentally, physically, different challenges.
So my group have to kind of be high, high functioning in a way.
Hmm.
We formed a band, and we perform as a band too.
Oh my goodness, that's
So
so
these guys,
cool.
I've been working for 14 years now. It took Chris almost 7 to sing the national anthem. So it's been a struggle, but a challenge at the same thing.
Oh, and you meet with them every week.
Every week on every Wednesday.
That is fabulous. Oh my goodness. And how many people are in your group?
Originally we had 15. We're down to 11 right now. With the
Mhm.
COVID hit, it really kind of put a damper on the program. So we were doing
Yeah.
everything as even if during COVID 2020 when we did trick or treating, we took them to the drive-throughs so we can do
Did
drive-through trick
you?
or treating still. So we made sure they didn't lose a thing.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. So, in your experience, do you feel that people like this are taken advantage of out there in the world?
Yes, yes. I've seen it
Mm.
in liquor stores, at restaurants where they'll hand them a 20 and it's only $11. They'll hand them a five back and they'll try to keep $2 or something because they're knowing that they can't count, they know and they can't see.
Ah, oh, that's
So,
horrible.
no, the world has chosen their positions in life when you wake up and say, I'm going to take advantage of somebody or I'm going to hurt somebody.
Hmm.
They wake up and make that conscious choice.
And I know it's true, but I hate the reality of that, and I think it's so admirable that you're doing what you can in your own way to try to counter that negative
But
perspective that so many have.
it's just a positive thing. They're trying to say, pay it forward. If you
Hmm.
see someone hungry, you feed them. You see someone needing help, you help them. And I don't think that exists to a lot of people's lives.
No, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. I think it's wonderful that you have exposure to a lot of people through, you're teaching at 2 colleges, right?
That's correct.
Palomar and MiraCosta.
No, Paula. No, it's Liberty Station, San Diego.
Oh, Liberty Station. Oh, so you're in North County and South County.
That's correct.
Very cool. Very cool. And if you could change one thing, Don, about people as a whole, what would it be?
Off the record, I'd say everyone should wear no clothes. On the record, I'd have to say everyone needs therapy, if not medication. Personally, I mean, if everyone walked around naked, I think there would no chance that no one would have to lie to each other. It would be fully exposed.
That's a good point.
Fully exposed, you would have nothing to lie about at any point in your life. This is me, accept me as I am, or move on.
You know what's interesting about that idea too is that so often our clothes are not only our shield, but it's also our costume. You know, it's part of how we're presenting a certain image in the world rather than this genuine look at who I really am.
Well, women get away with it all the time. Men can't. We don't have accessories. Women got away with all the accessories in the world, make you guys look sharper and beautiful every day.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But you have an accessory that I'm very curious about, and that's your sunglasses. You wear them all the time.
I try to. I guess I do camouflage for my eyes because it's something that I don't want the world to see. This is something that's meant for maybe someone that I want them to see. It's my security blanket. It's Linus's blanket, you can call it.
I see.
I don't go on stage. I don't perform without them. And then here I am with you, and I don't want to wear them. It makes me a little comfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting perspective, and it makes sense. Now on stage, I really get it because of the bright lights and all of that. That must be real tricky and hard on the eyes. But
it allows me that I can't see the audience, and it makes me where I put myself in a zone then.
I see.
If you have 100 people looking at you, they're all expecting something really great and fantastic, or they're judging you the minute I start singing.
Yes. Yes.
And the minute they start judging you, they now are going to even tell me their opinion automatically. If I don't want to hear it or not, I'm going to hear it.
Good point. We don't always want to hear it, right? And
That's
they're
right.
not being as discriminate as you are when you're choosing, as you told us earlier, the right time.
That's true, but I encourage it because, you know, I have an ego too, but it can get stepped on.
Yeah. But I think, you know, this idea of radical honesty, do you think that if we were evolved enough that in everything we did, we came from love, then could radical honesty be something that you wouldn't have to pick the right time for because we'd all kind of be coming from this different place?
That's a great point of view. I love it when you put love in the equation because love is basically what keeps the world moving. I truly believe in it. I don't want to say that I wouldn't believe in it. I mean, this is kind of a tough thing to say in a way, but I'd probably, oh boy, I'm kind of lost for words right now, to be honest with you, because love is really the whole world. And we don't do enough of it. We don't love each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't honestly say I love you because I don't know you. You know, we just met each other right now. But yet, if I'm going to be serving you in this world as what we're supposed to do, then yes, love has to exist every moment, at every level, every consciousness decision we make. We have to love everyone.
Yeah.
We choose to hate someone because of their color or their skin automatically. We choose to hate the opposite sex because maybe you've been hurt by that person or something. Everyone walks around with their different reasons why they have that hurt and that hate in their heart, and they carry it every day with them.
Yes.
And that's the people that we're going to try to have to help.
And I couldn't agree more that so often people's cruelty comes from their own pain or some terrible thing that happened to them, you know?
I have met a lot of women that's been sexually abused in this world.
Yeah.
And they have to put up with this. And it's just something that's been kicked under the covers and denied, and then they have to live their life as a big lie, thinking they did something wrong,
Exactly.
or that they're protecting somebody, because they're afraid if they say something. So then you live in your life in fear. Then after fear, then you have to lie. There's
Yes.
so many people out there that really need help with radical honesty, which just it'll open up.
Hmm.
If you admit something, then you don't know who you want to admit it to, and then they know something about you,
That's right.
and they hold power over you.
Hmm.
And damn, we don't want no one holding power over anybody.
That's right. I grew up with a Puerto Rican mother, and a lot of Latino people are very big on we do not air the dirty linen, or the dirty laundry in public. And so at age, I guess I was about 34, I was a very good secret keeper because I'd been taught all my life to do that. And then my husband got sober and I started going to Al-Anon. And I got to tell you, Don, it was a trip for me to sit there and listen to people telling these terrible things that had happened the night before with their drunken husband, or telling the truth about their own feelings. And it was like something I've never experienced before. And
That
it was
emotional breakdown, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
it was like so disorienting. But you know what? It changed my life. I went back to school and I got my credentials to become a counselor so that I could be engaged in that kind of a world all the time. Because in my world, everybody was being polite all the time, and a lot of pain was being experienced without help because we just didn't want to talk about it, or we
Right.
certainly didn't want anyone else to know about it.
Hence why it's easier to lie.
Exactly. So I totally get what you're saying. And as a therapist too, I have said for years now, I am always astounded by the power of words spoken. But I'm also always astounded by the power of words unspoken. And
Scientific.
so often people push it down. They don't tell their truth and they
Yeah,
go through years of pain that
that's true.
doesn't have to be had.
You've been in a real relationship, and you know when you get to look at somebody, you know what that look looks like.
Hmm.
And you don't get that anywhere else. You don't need to communicate. We don't need to talk to each other. You
Yeah,
get the right look, everything's great.
it's so true. It's
You
so
get that
true.
wrong look, you get a little disgusting. You know how that partner in your life gives you that little evil eye. You know, oh shit, I did something wrong. You don't even need to talk to each other, and that's love there in itself.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the magic, when you're connected enough to somebody that it's not about words, it's just about presence,
Yeah,
right? It's about feeling that person's energy.
there it is. The person's energy,
Hmm.
and we deny that because maybe the color of their skin, their sexuality, whatever.
Yes.
Today, everyone's uptight about sexuality. I don't know where that started from.
Yeah,
So,
well, I grew up in the 60s and nobody was uptight about it then. It
yeah,
was
that's true.
free spirits, right?
True spirit, but that caused a lot of pain too.
Hmm.
Really
That's
did.
true. That is true. And that's the thing. I think there is a certain danger to giving people a concept like radical honesty if they don't have that loving heart, because then it just becomes a tool for hurting people, or just saying, I tell the truth no matter what. I don't worry about anybody's feelings. And
And those
that's
are the
not,
bullshitters.
yeah.
Those are the bullshitters of the world. I see them all the day. I'm in a band with one. Kind of clear as he tells the truth, but turn around, he's bullshitting the minute he opens his mouth.
Yeah. And
So, no, I know what you mean.
okay, so I before I let you go, I have to ask you to give us some examples of radical honesty. Like, let's start with a student. How would you give me an example of that?
Look, a student's a really good example. If I'm going to teach someone anything,
Mhm.
even if it is as simple as stained glass, which I kind of keep it as elementary as I can, so it makes it fun, enjoyable to learn and do.
Uh-huh.
They're not going to like the fact for me telling them that you're doing something wrong. They hate that word wrong, but you have to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And then I'm pretty difficult in a teacher sometimes. I'm very demanding of them to listen. If I'm going to be paid and take their money, then you're going to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I want. And people have that problem of listening. They want to do it, but they can't listen. They can do it,
Yeah.
but they can't listen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's their whole life. They don't know how to listen. So my job is to make sure they listen first. After they've listened, then I'll show them how to do it.
Yeah.
First, it takes a few processes for me to be my student, if you're going to be a student of mine.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't listen, after I show you and tell you, I'll have you on the floor doing push-ups. And if that doesn't drag you out of here, then I'll take more money from you and I'm going to be harder on you. I want you to learn something and have fun at the same time.
Mm.
I have a lot of students that basically will tell them that that's an embarrassing thing to have to get on the ground and do push-ups. But it really forces the mind to remember when you're in an embarrassing moment for a second. And
That's a
there's the
good point.
radical honesty right there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to tell the student, I've showed you, I've told you, I've showed you. You have to raise your voice just like I did there. Then you have to scold them, and I scold them in front of the class. So they're now all of a sudden now they're down their heads, just like the puppy dog's got his nose in the pee in the carpet.
Mm.
Exactly the way you learn, just like a dog did. I'm not
Yeah.
treating it like an animal, no way. I'm not saying that. But
Yeah.
the theory is the same way. No one wants to listen. No one wants to be told what to do. The
Yeah.
younger generation is very difficult to teach.
Really.
Something wrong with the younger generation. And I'd love to touch base with everyone in their 20s to 30s. I really would. Try to get their mentality changed a little bit, knowing that things are just as good as they were. And there's no reason to change too much.
Mm.
There's plenty for everybody.
Yes, there is.
There's no
There
reason for these guys to hoard nothing.
Okay, so what if you're on a date and a girl says, "Do these pants make me look fat?"
Ah,
And
yeah, you're going to get radical honesty from me right away. If you got a bubble butt, girl, I'm going to tell you got a bubble butt. And I'm going to say you got a nice ass that I want to, sleep in there. Yeah, I'm going to say that. So no, that's probably the problem with the guys too. If you're going to walk into a bar, they basically want to buy you a drink and waste time.
yeah.
Basically, the radical honesty behind that bar situation is just ask the girl first couple minutes of the conversation, 2 minutes. Do you see yourself sleeping with me? And if she says no, save yourself $10. Don't buy that girl a drink. I mean, she's going to look you over, give you the one down, see, from head to toe, and you're doing the same thing because you've already asked her to buy a drink.
Uh,
Show you that will save a lot of time. That's
it's
just a small example.
so true. It's so true.
And no one does that. No guys have enough balls to go to a woman and go, hey, chance I can sleep with you. But if not, they're doing it a different approach and they make it sleazy or uncomfortable for the woman.
Totally. Or yes, they lie. They're
There it is.
saying
See,
things to
you've been lied to by guys in the bar, haven't you?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Every woman
well,
has.
us guys, we have a little bit more standards. We have to come up, prove a little bit more to you women out there. We're
Yeah.
getting very lazy. I'm talking to every goddamn guy out in this world. We're lazy.
Mm.
We treat women like shit. We're taking them for granted.
Oh, I love what you're saying now. Keep going.
Seriously, we're just expecting you guys to take our drink and go out in the parking lot with us just because
Yes.
we bought you a drink.
Yes.
And that's where the love doesn't exist. There's no respect.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it doesn't start that way.
Mm-mm. What's the most ideal beginning of a relationship you've ever had with somebody, or beginning of even a friendship, or what you think of as a kind of an ideal date situation?
Oh, that's three questions in one, girl. Okay, I'll see if I can do all three.
Okay.
Well, okay, I witnessed a girl walking across the street at the age of 13.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to the same school. We walked in the same gate together, and I was walking behind her, and I whispered in her ear, I'm going to marry you one day.
Really?
So it was 5 years later, we were married.
Oh my.
So I didn't know how that all came about, but that's something I just felt, and I kept,
Mhm.
I guess, kept driving that way towards it, just because I was driven to do this.
Uh-huh.
But when a man loves somebody, you should say it. You're doing the world injustice if you really have love for somebody and not saying it.
Absolutely.
You really are. I mean, my mom says if you love someone, say it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And no one will say, I love you. They're going to say, God, creep, get out of here.
Mm,
You know, I mean, if you're trying to pass on a little positive energy and they just rejected some positive energy, then, you know,
yeah.
so be it. Then you just got to try it one more time.
Mm,
You know, my job is to not stop trying. Other people just give up, go to the next girl, give up, go to the
hmm
next girl, give
That's
up, go to
right.
the next girl.
Mm,
Percentages do pay off. Eventually, they'll find a woman that's going to say, sure. But that's a percentage of the world, just like if I'm going to be calling you cold calls trying to make money. Eventually,
yes.
the person's going to say yes.
hmm
So the world is percentages too. And if anybody just knows that, then you're going to still get what you want out of life too.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Well, I'm kind of mind boggled in a very wonderful way by so many truths that you have shared with us today, Don. I mean, like I could go on and on and on with a zillion more questions, but um, I think you've just laid down some really important stuff today, and I think part of what you've shared hopefully will give my listeners courage to not get blocked by fear of not being enough, fear of being judged, all those fears that keep us from living authentically and honestly and full out, if you will.
Well, we don't
'Cause-
accomplish much. When you don't finish anything, you don't got that self satisfaction of saying how good I feel inside.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
easy to start something and put it aside and never finish it. And then just either blame someone else or just
hmm
create a little lie why I never got back to it.
Yeah.
A
Yes.
lot of people will start something in life and never finish it, so they don't have that sense of accomplishment.
hmm
Never learn that. Stained glass will give you that, in my opinion. I'll
Well,
force you
thanks.
to basically start a project and finish it, give you that feeling of self accomplishment.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It has to start somewhere. It really does.
Mm. Yeah, and it's who would have thought, like if I were sitting just musing one day and thinking, how can I develop a greater sense of accomplishment in my life? I have to say, Don, I would not have thought of stained glass. But after meeting you and after our conversation, I get it. I really do get it. And I also see how fulfilling that is for you to be sharing this gift with people so that they can
It's more
create.
than stained glass here. My studio is more than stained glass.
Yes, I can see that. I'm coming down very soon. I know exactly where you are.
I look
But
forward to meeting you in person.
thank you. Me too, you. And will you share with everybody where the address of your studio if they're interested in seeing your work or hearing more
We're
from Don?
located at 1025 South Coast Highway in Oceanside, right next to Discount Tires, across the street from Angelo's and Fresh Start Cafe.
And if some of our listeners, and they are all over the world, if they want to connect with you on Facebook or something, some social media, is that a possibility?
That would be great. I'd host a conversation with anyone.
And your Facebook page is just your
Uh,
name,
just Don Myers.
Don
Don
Myers,
Myers, yeah. Then I have it on
spelled
stained glass.
Myers.
MYERS, yes.
And also for our listeners, I will have all that information in the show notes, as well as some pictures of Don's work, which is really extraordinary. And maybe if I get down to that studio very soon, I can get a selfie with him that we'll put in the show notes too. I
All
think I'd
right.
like that.
I like that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Don. Thank you for all that you've shared with us today. It's truly a joy to have met you. And
Same here. It's been a pleasure.
thank you. And thank you to all my listeners. You know that you can find Change It Up Radio on every podcast platform. We have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page, and of course, a YouTube channel where this video will be seen. So thanks for being with us. Don't forget to like us and to subscribe so you'll know when new shows are coming up. And you know the drill, all that stuff. Until next week, please take good care of yourselves and find somebody that it's safe and loving to be radically honest with today. See how it feels. All right. Bye bye.